We're going to start in about 5 minutes. I'll talk to you soon. Hi, thank you for coming for the book launch of Sofia's Search for Justice. And first of all, I want to thank Orange Teal for providing this space for 2 hours at no fee at all. And I strongly encourage you to order some drinks or snacks to support our local F&B business. Yeah. And besides that, I also want to thank Shawal, David, and my friends Amanda and Deborah for helping out impromptu about this event. If you feel strongly that you do not want your pictures to be taken, you can tell David, okay? Otherwise, I will use your pictures and the videos for my social media platform, okay? So today, the highlight, I hope this is not the highlight, that we do have 2 limited edition mugs for the lucky draw later this afternoon. So if you are keen, my friend Amanda is actually getting the lucky draw slips and put inside the box that we will do the lucky draw later, right? Okay, I will just want to do a brief introduction of myself, and I think that most of you know me. Yes, Nigel is smiling over there. Yes, he knows me very well. Yeah, I'm Belle, also selling for whoever, you can know me by either Belle or selling, right? Yeah, so I use Belle for my social media platform because if anything goes wrong, they can't trace the real me. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I am a social work trained practitioner, but I'm very enthusiastic about restorative justice. So today I feel that I'm more of an RJ practitioner than a social worker, actually. Yeah. So I have decided to write this book on Sofia's Search for Justice to actually highlight some aspects of restorative justice. And besides me, I have a Lutheran pastor, also a theologian. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Samuel. Actually, I got to know Xiaoling because she's working in LCCS last time, and that's the Lutheran welfare arm of the church. But I come to know about restorative justice when I was actually a secondary school teacher, and they were trying to get students to learn about how to reconcile their problems with each other before they get disciplined. So that is the kind of process that I actually was involved in before. And I thought it's quite a valuable thing to consider, even to have it something like a practice in our families, even in our churches, yeah, when relationship goes wrong. And I find this very valuable, so I'm always on this topic as well and just learning as I go.
Okay, so before I start, later on you'll hear more from Pastor Samuel about the theological perspective of restorative justice. Wow, very cheap. So this is something only he can say, I cannot. Huh? So, but right now, I would like to read a small part of the story. I actually hope that there are kids around, but okay, we are all kids at heart, right? So please respond to my questions in a childlike manner. Can? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start. Can you help me? Thanks, Rachel. Lamb. Thank you. You need a lot of help, huh? Yeah. Okay.
If you need,
can you hear me without the mic? Cannot.
You want me to hold the book?
Okay, sure. Thank you. See, we all need a network of friends. Yeah. That's what being restorative is about too, building a community of network of support. Yeah. Okay, so Sofia has a lamb whom she loves very much. Here, she calls her Lemmy, and Lemmy has a little friend over there, brought by Deborah. Yeah. So she feeds and washes her, and whenever she goes out, she will bring Lemmy along. It's like a friend. It's not just a pet. right? To Sofia, Lemmy is not just a pet. Okay. Can flip. So, as Sofia is taking her daily stroll with Lemmy, a car suddenly swerves and mounts the curb, hitting Lemmy. Ah! Shocked and upset, Sofia starts to cry, and when she looks up, the car is gone. Okay, so if you are Sofia and to see your pet being hurt or being harmed, how do you feel? Anyone? Any kids here? How would you feel? Angry. Angry, right? And what else? What else? How do you feel? Any kids here? Okay. What?
Sad.
Sad. Sorry, very, very sorry. Yeah, you can shout it out. Yeah. What else? Angry, sad. Sad like that, yeah? Sad. What else? Scared. Mommy's doing a rhyme. Scared. Does this look like scared? Maybe scared to tears, right? Scared. Why? Why scared? Yeah. What if you hurt seriously? What will happen? Will she be lame for life and things like that? So there's a lot of feelings, right? Scared, angry, sad. Yeah. So what happens? Okay. So a passerby witnessed the accident and passes a note to mom, to Sophia's mother. Okay, I got the car license number here. You can report the driver to the police. I can be your witness. Okay. So at the hospital, Sofia is comforted by her parents. So while praying for Lemmy's healing, Sofia is angry, sad, and distressed. Like what you said, right? Angry, sad, and scared. And she has a lot of questions, like why did the driver drive off after hitting Lemmy? Why does this have to happen to Lemmy? And some self-blame too. It is my fault. I did not take good care of her. Right? So if you were Sofia, what would you like to do? What would you want to do about this situation?
Rewind time.
Rewind time.
Wow.
Talk about it. What else? Wen Hui, you want to say something?
Sleep over it. Sleep over it.
Sleep over it and things will be fine. Let's see what is the next page, right? So many people, so when things happen, right, you have many people telling you what to do, correct or not, in your life? Yeah. So many people around Sofia tell her that the driver needs to be punished for causing harm to Lemmy. They call the driver irresponsible, heartless, selfish. And this is justice for the driver to be punished. I'm not sure whether this is also in your initial thoughts. Do you think the driver needs to be punished? Yes, why? So I think, we will talk about, restorative, we'll talk about, the meaning of punishment and what the punishment, can do or cannot do. What do the survivors victims of crime need? Hi, Yvonne. Yes. Okay, so I'm not going to tell the whole story, right? If I tell the whole story, no one's going to buy my book. So it's going to be here. Yeah, so think about it. Think about what Sofia wants to do and what Sofia decided to do. Okay? So moving on to the next segment. Since you're already seated in your clusters, so in your group, right, I have 2 questions for your conversation. Okay? So what are the questions? Number 1, how would you like to feel when you experience harm or crime? How would you like to feel when you experience harm or crime? Then number 2, how would you not like to feel when you experience harm or crime? So one is what you want to feel when you experience harm or crime, right? Correct? Yeah. The other one, what feelings you don't want to have when you experience harm or crime? Okay? Okay, just 10 minutes in your table. And for the kids, I have a puzzle for you to work on. I'm going to bring a puzzle to you, and you will know when after you piece the puzzle what Sophia decided to do with the situation. Would you like to join them in the conversation? You can join them in the conversation. You are also a participant.
It's really getting people talking about the topic of what you want them to think about.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Hope you had the opportunity to. I know you have not seen each other for a long time too. So I'm very glad that at this platform you can reconnect with your friends and get to know new friends, right? So I think besides talking about, not sure how many people actually converse about my questions, but it's fine. Yeah. The main idea is connecting, right? Yeah. Okay, so if you have followed my IG at Here Justice, so you will realize that I have about 7 stories there. Experience of survivors victim of crime. I think Rachel just shared with her friends that she almost got scammed. If you got scammed, I can interview you. So anyways, I'm actually looking for people who willing to share their experience, because I want to raise awareness of the needs of survivors victims of crime. So basically, if you had an opportunity to discuss the questions, right? If you have experience, if you experienced harm or crime, how would you like to feel? Kuma, you're looking at me intensely. How would you like to feel if I ever experienced harm? You want justice, but what does justice look like for you?
Wow.
It's a big question to unpack, right? So, but at least for the feeling, how would you like to feel? Yeah. Feel safe. Yeah. What else? Feel heard. Yeah. And then you know that these are from my LCCS colleagues who does a lot of restorative practice, and therefore they they answer me. Okay, anyone? Supported. Yeah, you want to be supported. What would you not want to feel?
Alone.
You don't feel alone, right? What else? Sad. And you don't want to feel ashamed, right? Because there's an interview that I did with a friend. She was a victim of a peeping Tom when she rented a place, and when she was about to have a shower, she noticed this video cam at the bathroom. Then she quickly, dressed herself up again and made a police report. And she said that although her former colleagues were nice, they went to the house to pick the things, for her to move out. But at the same time, they also expressed things like, why would you be renting a room where another room is lettered out to a guy? Why would you do that? So she felt that it was not helpful. She felt blamed, right? So because she rented the room from the landlord, then subsequently another tenant is a male tenant who moved in, and I don't think she expected these things to happen, right? You wouldn't expect anyone to, it's just a fellow tenant, yeah? So she felt that, that was not a helpful remark lah. So as people who support, people who are going through this journey, I think it's better not to say anything if you have nothing good to say. That's always my philosophy, right? Yeah. So, okay, I need to look at my script for this one so that I'll be very precise here. Oh yeah, the kids had done their puzzle, right? So was it easy to do? What was the what's the picture about? You want to tell me what the picture that you did? You want to come here? You want to tell me about the picture? Would you like to tell me about the picture? Anyone? Any kids there? Pravina? So shy, huh? So basically, the picture comes up with this. Okay, let me show you. So this was the puzzle that the kids did, yeah? And what does the puzzle show? It shows that, people affected by the incident come together. You say want to feel supported. Yes, people who are supportive, and they talk about their feelings. You want to talk through about the issue, right? Yeah, you don't want to, avoid it, and therefore they came with some, ways to make things right? Okay, want to know more? Get a copy of the book, right? I hope I don't have to bring any unsold copies back, Okay, let me sit here. So basically, there are three key messages in this book. I think number one is to share about the alignment between restorative justice and political justice. And I've been reading the readings from Prof. Christopher Marshall, right? He is a theologian as well as a professor in New Zealand, right? So what he said is that divine justice is restorative justice, which is redemption, restoration, and making things right and even better for the community. Second, through this book, I want to highlight the restorative principles, including empathy, accountability, and ownership in making things right. Ownership amongst the community people, and you don't outsource your conflicts to others. And just like I explained the puzzle, right, that people come together, so that was what Sofia decided to do. And finally, I want to highlight the importance of survivors victims of crimes involvement in addressing harm. I think in our current legal system, they are quite removed and they don't have a chance to voice how they feel. Yeah. So I think that they need to have their voice heard and experience acknowledgement and validation. I think since September 2022, I already said I started to collect stories. I have seven stories so far on my IG, so I really need your help. That if you know of someone who experienced harm or crime and willing to share, let me know, connect with me. And I hope that in time we will, I want to raise awareness of what of their needs are. Yeah. Okay, so now Pastor Samuel would like to share on the theological perspective of justice.
Tell me when to stop.
Oh yes, you have a lot of time, but early.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'd like to share from the perspective of the Bible and theology on restorative justice. Actually, restorative justice is something that we can see that's reflected in God's relationship with Israel, and that's in the Old Testament. Firstly, whenever you see certain words like translated as righteousness and justice, it is describing this vision of society where relationships are ordered rightly. And so justice includes caring for the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the foreigner. And we can see this all over the Old Testament. There's also this principle of restitution and restoration in the laws that are given to Israel. Especially we can see in Exodus 22 and Leviticus 6. And these laws require wrongdoers to make restitution to their victims, sometimes even paying additional compensation. And so this implies more than punishment. It aims to repair the harm that's done. A very famous law, or what we usually use the term lex talionis, meaning an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? Very often that is interpreted to mean that it's right that I take revenge. But actually that's not the meaning of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's meant to restrict an avenger, right? So if something is done to you, you can take this person to justice to the extent of the harm. And so it's not meant to give license, to someone who wants to take revenge. So in that sense, lex talionis is wrongly characterized. And we also see that in the Old Testament, there are laws that God put in place for Israel. For example, the Sabbath laws, every 7 years, you should let your land be fallow. That means to say you don't work the land, let the land rest. And that also means the workers get to rest. And then every 50 years, you are supposed to forgive the debts of people who owe you money. So that means to say that you no longer go after them. The debts are completely cleared out after 50 years. I wish that I could do that for HDB. No need to pay them. No, just joking. Okay, so debts are forgiven, right? And so the Sabbath and the Jubilee year, the concept is actually to help those who are poor, marginalized, who could not actually do the thing that is expected in terms of paying back. Yeah, so this have an implication, right, for restorative justice. And so all these Old Testament teachings in the Bible help us to understand that God's relationship to Israel is not just based on a very transactional way of thinking, but it is from a graciousness that is evidenced by God's own move to liberate and save Israel in the first place. Now, in the New Testament, Jesus' ministry, let's look at it. Now, Jesus embodies restorative justice by healing the sick, forgiving sinners, restoring the outcasts, and he brings not revenge or vengeance, but reconciliation. A very famous parable that he gave was the parable of the prodigal son. But actually, somebody recently preached in TTC Chapel and said it can be better titled as the prodigal father. And the reason why is because the word prodigal is not just the idea of being profligate, but it is generous, or so overwhelmingly generous. And so the parable of the prodigal son or the father shows how a Middle Eastern father had so much love for his son who went wayward by asking for all his inheritance, his share of the inheritance before the father died. And that is actually cause for disowning him. But the father gave in. And yet when this son went and spent all his money and thought, oh, how much better is the servants at home, and he calculated how he will give a nice speech to the father when he comes back so that the father can receive him back as his son. The father didn't even wait for him to finish, but he threw his arms around him when he appeared. In fact, before that, he ran towards him when he saw him from afar. And for the Middle Eastern old person with a robe that he's wearing, it is very comical and also not very dignified. But he threw those things away in welcoming his son back, and even gave the son the ring of sonship to wear and a coat to cover him, and to kill the fattened calf, right? This is like save up for Chinese New Year or something big, right? And say, let's have a party. Now that is such a beautiful story of restoration. So this parable that Jesus told us is to highlight how gracious and loving our Heavenly Father is. And so in terms of the New Testament, we can see that in other passages, I just want to bring out when Jesus refers to the law of lex talionis, that means an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, he actually said, oh, this is mischaracterized, right? But I tell you, if someone hit you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek, right? And so he's challenging us that the relationship is more important than getting, your just dessert. And so that is a challenge for Christians to put the relationship with one another, just like our Heavenly Father did put that relationship as a priority. Now, when it comes to the letters or the epistles, we see that the church is challenged as a covenant community to think about the well-being of the whole community in many matters. And so restorative justice involves the participation of everyone in the Christian community. And it's communal, it's not just individual. So the church is challenged to actually come around to support those who are mistreated, those who are even in the midst in the church, right, who are left out of what they should get in terms of care. And finally, the Bible ends with this vision of a fully restored creation where justice and peace dwell together. So restorative justice is a foretaste of that future shalom, the future peace. That is not just conditional, but it starts from our relationship with God and then from inside out. So the practical implications for us, is that as we practice confession, forgiveness, and even church discipline and peacemaking, that it will all be reflective of restorative justice. And we see that many Christians are working in prison ministries, in peace building efforts, and we like to be able to do more to bring such restoration even to our own families and our societies. So in summary, biblical and theological views of justice go beyond punishment to include repentance, forgiveness, restoration, and community healing. And God's justice is not only about setting things right, but also about making people and relationships whole again. I'm done.
Thank you, Pastor Samuel. So it's very good, right? In my book launch, you get to listen to a scholar, and like a mini sermon on a Sunday. Yeah, thank you. I think I learned a lot from him as well. And you'll see that, yes, it's I do have Bible verses in my book. That's because I said there's a lot of alignment between the biblical justice and restorative justice. And also, despite it being a children's book, as you read to kids, I think there's a lot for you to think about as well, a lot of questions, right? It's what Rachel said, what is justice? So when I read about what Bible scholars talk about justice and forgiveness, it's very hard for me to take as well. It's like, it's not easy to forgive, right? And what does forgiveness entail? Until you say that, actually one of the quotes I had was that if you think about forgiveness, it's about the outstretched hand of God. Yeah, it's not from you, right? And I think for this, so therefore I hope that this book is to plant seeds in people to think about what is restorative justice. It's to think about ourselves. When we are in a conflict or experience harm, what would you want to experience? We hope that we can make the community better. Restorative justice is what Pastor Samuel said. It's not just to address the harm. It's not just doing the repair work. It's also making things better. Making better conditions for the community, for all of us to thrive. So I think this is something that I'm still learning, and it's actually daily living. And I hope that this book will be you'll be inspired by this to live out your Christian faith as well. Yeah. Okay, that's the main program for today. Thank you all for coming, and please come and grab a copy of the book because I don't wish to bring back. Thank you.